All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to 1 Million Cups Chico chapter. 1 Million Cups is a weekly presentation put on all across the United States. There's over 153 different chapters, maybe at 160 now. And everyone is gathering together to share their ideas, their dreams, and hopefully their empires with the community. And this is a place that's supposed to be safe for you to come and share those ideas with the different people in our community to get some feedback on those ideas. Because everyone has all these ideas. They write it down in their notebooks. They're sitting there at work daydreaming about being somewhere else, doing something else, having a different, not a job, not a career, but following something that's your passion. If you can find something that handles all three of those and makes you happy, do it. Please. And if you know somebody has all those notebooks full of ideas, always doing something, just have them come here so they can see other people, other like-minded people that they can talk to. And they see they're not alone. Because for the most part, I stick out like a weird flower in the garden with my friends. They want to know what the hell is going on with me. Why do I have so many notebooks? Just another idea. So I had to start doing something about those. And that's why I'm here. Because I drink the Kool-Aid, and I want to be an entrepreneur for the rest of my life. I want to find other like-minded people. I want to share these ideas. I want to be prosperous. I want to help our community be prosperous. Because we live here. I want to help create a legacy for where we are. Northern California is just forgotten about for the whole state. So if we can create our own empires here and have everyone be part of our party, I say we do it. So if you know somebody, please have them come here, share their ideas, and listen to the community with their experiences, their failures, and their successes. Mostly their failures, because those are the learning points that we've all had to endure and put up with and cry over, and a lot of loss. You know, necessity really sparks a lot of fire in people. So if you can have someone that can share their story with you and give you inspiration, please bring them here and share what we have. Then, the Kauffman Foundation does put this on weekly across the United States. It's a nonprofit and it's education-based. So that means, yes, everyone is welcome to come. But there is an application process. You can see us online. You can go through it. We'll help you out. And we want to thank all of our sponsors and our organizers. And who else? And I'm just going to say sponsors and organizers because everyone puts in their hard time and their effort and their continuous support. And it takes all of us to put this on every week. And without everybody, it's hard to do. So appreciate for you guys who've been coming, really do. So this week, we have a special guest from out of town in Reading. We have Nathan Slafter with his new project that he's been working on very diligently over the last couple of years. And I'm sure you've had a few pivots. So now he's ready to present his almost final presentation and get some feedback from us. So I'd like to present Nathan and his project. You have 6 minutes, sir.
All right. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nathan Slafter. I'm the founder of Rent, the platform that lets you pay rent, build credit, and earn rewards. When my wife and I moved from New York City to California, we had spent as much money on rent that we could have purchased a home, but instead we were starting the process over again. And we were really frustrated because we had to be credentialed, we had to prove who we were, we had to say that we're great tenants. And we thought, why is it that we earn rewards and value for everything that we do, for the airlines, the hotels, the coffee, the credit cards, but as a renter, your biggest monthly expense, this is a national average of 30% of your income, gets no rewards, no opportunity to build value or be credentialed for future initiatives. We thought rent is really broken, so we created Rent to fix it. A perfect example is this, what we see in the industry. The difference between a low credit score and a high credit score costs thousands of dollars in interest. And because rent is traditionally unreported to credit bureaus, you may be a phenomenal tenant, but not have the opportunity to build value for the future. And so over the course of an auto loan, for example, you're spending $9,000 additionally in interest that you can't put towards a mortgage or starting a business or getting your family prepared for the future. So Rent lets you solve this problem. We let you pay rent the way that you want to pay. 80% of the US still uses paper to pay rent. And so for landlords, this is frustrating. Tracking down checks, running to the bank, reconciling with their ledger. And for a renter, now you have the opportunity to build credit for paying your rent on time, for paying your utilities, and get recognition for the social good you do, whether it be rounding up your rent to support charitable initiatives. The next thing we did was said, let's build credit. So what we did was we tied in with traditional FICO score, your Experian, to report the elements like paying your rent on time, paying your utilities to bolster your credit. But we also created a rent history for the rental economy to credential you as a renter that you can take with you wherever you go to differentiate yourself from other renters out there. And in speaking with hundreds of property managers, one of their biggest pain points is the credentialing of renters, because right now they just have a number on a piece of paper and a bank statement. They don't know who you are, what your transaction history is, what your behaviors are like, what your reputation is, what you do social good. So that's what we've created. And we tie it all together with rewards. This is the ultimate reward ecosystem for the renter economy. So finally, as a renter, you get something back for paying your rent on time. And moreover, landlords, instead of just having a demerit-based system for penalizing late payments, now they have a merit-based system to extrinsically motivate renters to pay rent on time, to renew their lease early, to identify their replacement as a tenant, or even do minor maintenance. The hard costs are real. In 2016, there were 2.3 million evictions. This is people that made it all the way through the eviction process, sheriff on the door. This is $3.5 billion in lost revenue that our platform will be able to mitigate through tenant screening and incentivizing behavior. We're able to do this really because of a stellar team. I built a career connecting people, process, and raising money for companies. So I've assembled the best and the brightest. I chose my wife, amazing creative designer. I brought on a technical co-founder, Jay Park, who's the perfect marriage of product and marketing, as well as an architect, Marty Mosley, who's really built a world-class architecture to elevate the renter economy. And we have a deep roster of executives with data science backgrounds in real estate, blockchain, and machine learning, as well as all-star advisors. And what this allowed us to do is really execute and complete a comprehensive product roadmap. We've won a venture conference. We've been invited to several other venture conferences coming up. We've secured our first $200,000 of seed funding. We've completed our prototype demo and now are in pen testing. And we've assembled an all-star team as well as a significant domain portfolio. And what this allows us to do is we've established advocacy for the renter, created value for the landlord. We're reporting on credit to elevate the renter economy. We have a deep insight into renters, and now we can provide new avenues of financial services, of insurance underwriting, of even banking. Last year, Lemonade, a renter insurance company, received $120 million from SoftBank on a $1 billion valuation with 90,000 users. SoftBank realizes the value of this renter, and our platform, Rent, is the ultimate pipeline for the renter economy. And that's how we make money, through simple transaction fees, through affiliate marketing bounties, through lead generation, and through the arbitrage of data and capital that we're collecting. We're going to market very strategically, leveraging the relationships our executives have with asset managers, property managers, and landlords, as well as integrating with the existing landlord management systems, which gives us confidence as we scale. Our model is based upon industry benchmarks for SaaS. So by year 5, we'll have 600,000 users and $57 million in revenue. My name is Nathan Slafter. I'm the founder of Rent. We are elevating the renter economy. Please email me at nathan@rent.ai to learn how you can pay rent, build credit, and earn rewards. Thank you.
Who's first?
ARR, you said $96. Is that the acquisition cost for a renter?
Annual recurring revenue. So
recurring revenue.
Yeah,
Okay.
our customer acquisition cost starts around $10 to $15 and then moves to right around $50 as we scale because our value of the customer increases.
You'd be plugging in more pieces.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing I'll say before, but the next person is that I really like how you're using your brand with all the different parts of it.
Yeah.
That's smart. Okay, sorry, next.
Are you up and running?
Yeah, so if you go to rent.ai, you can see our site, you can log in. We have a private pilot though, so you can't we're not processing anybody's payments currently, but we will in September. So
The prototype.
Got it, okay. So cost to the renter, cost to the landlord?
We're a freemium model right now to scale. So just for transparency, that's our customer acquisition cost, is bringing these customers on board. What's really interesting is brands are willing to pay to acquire new customers, meaning your local coffee shop, merchants, pizza places will give access to perks and rewards and pay us to acquire customers for them. So that's one of our revenue drivers, is actually brand engagement or perk engagement, and that's one of the values that we offer for rewards. So it's affiliate marketing bounties.
And your competition now, is it like PayPal or what?
Yeah, so I get that question a lot. That's a great question. So when we look at the industry, it's very interesting because it's fragmented. There's fragmented in payments, so there's different payment solutions. There's a few credit building solutions like Rent Track and Rent Karma. There's a couple incentive solutions. One's called Rent Moolah. But there isn't an ecosystem that becomes the advocacy platform for rent, like an ARP or AAA for rent. And so that's the approach that we're taking. We're integrating with some of the existing providers, where we have an integration with Braintree and PayPal. So we leverage, we can process those payments as well as ACH.
There's a huge demand. I see what I call financial literacy here.
Yeah.
So many renters, they pay cash, or they'll go down to CVS and get a
Money order.
money order and
Yeah.
they pay for that, or they'll ride out to our office and drop off a check, and it's late. They've just thrown money away.
Yeah.
They just need to learn this. And I think because banks have been charging higher fees just to have a savings account or a bank account, they avoid that.
Yeah, underbanked. There's a big issue with underbanked. There's also
Socioeconomic demographic that's underbanked.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
16% of the U.S. over 16 is not banked, and so then you look at 2% of the population is also being evicted, and these often are the people that have subprime. They haven't had the education nor the opportunity to be validated for good behaviors within the rental economy, like paying your rent on time. So why pay your rent on time when you can pay your credit card on time and keep a high credit score? But so that's kind of what we're trying to address.
That's great. Yeah.
I think this is awesome. I think that this has the potential to change people's lives when you start to talk about socioeconomic differences and how people of different classes have less of an opportunity to build their credit and stuff. But that being said, a lot of that I think is an education piece, right?
Yeah.
So the people who this would really benefit, the people who need help building their credit, those are going to be the people who are going to require probably a harder education push in terms of marketing. Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah.
This is great in theory, but I can understand people needing an education about it.
Yeah, sometimes people ask you what keeps you up at night, and that's really our heart is.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the opportunities that we can really figure out how to address. And our hypothesis is gamification, is levels, badges, rewards, extra incentives for creating financial literacy. Like, paying your rent on time is one thing. Reading a blog is another. Filling out a survey about financial health is another. And so this is kind of like 2 or 3 years down the roadmap. But as more of these people are, going through the channel, they are able to level up. And kind of like the difference between like a gold card versus a platinum card versus, the black card or whatever, the different levels of perks and access. That's what we envision with gamifying the solution. So as people, become more financially literate, they also have greater opportunity for financial underwriting.
So how do the logistics of the platform work, right? So say someone does the landlord or property manager automatically give person X credit for paying rent on time? Does the person who's how does it work?
Yeah. That's where we sit. We sit as the intermediary. So we're reporting to FICO.
Okay.
We're starting with Experian, which is one of the three, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Just for those of you who don't know, FICO 8 is traditionally the scoring algorithm that most credit bureaus run against for lending. So they pull your FICO 8, they assess whether or not you have the ability to carry debt. It's really built for ownership. Last year, FICO 9 came out. FICO 9 actually takes into account elements like utilities and transaction history. However, they haven't had the opportunity to really capture this attention, and most companies aren't leveraging this new algorithm. So our hope is, our purpose is to drive more behaviors to the score to make it more recognized, but also create something specific, bespoke for a renter. Because as a renter, if you're an amazing renter and a tenant, why do you have to do the same thing? Another background check, another credit score, another lease application, another reference call. Like, can't we, now with technology, can't we prove that you've been a great renter, that you've been a good citizen, that you've, done your own maintenance, etc. And that's the credentialing that we're creating that will then also let us create new financial products for the renter specifically. Yes.
I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate.
Yeah, please.
So say the renter is engaged in this program, they've been a good renter, and also something happens and they haven't paid their rent in 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I know it's like anything else, your car payment and stuff, but that can get an extra on their credit score, right? I mean, not just like with anything, but I was just thinking kind of the opposite.
And
Maybe
that's,
should they, you know?
well, kind of. So the only time your credit is really impacted traditionally is when you don't pay rent.
Right.
So it is truly a demerit-based system. So if you don't pay your rent on time, you get kind of red flagged, and that already affects your credit. So that's not, I mean, that already is happening in the economy today.
Right.
Does
And
that
so
depend on the landlord a little bit? Because sometimes I'm like, oh,
sometimes, yeah. And so our hope is to, is there a way to reward virtuous behavior and to create a virtuous cycle of more good in that environment? And that's our hypothesis, and we'll be testing as we go and gamifying the experience.
Well, here's the end goal. Obviously, you want to create a merit system for renters, right? Which is huge. Millennials are not buying homes.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing could do very well. Is the end point of what you're trying to do too is to get, because you mentioned some kind of finance literature, finance guidance, right? To get them to maybe later be able to purchase a home?
Yeah, yes.
Is that?
Thank you for bringing that up. So really where we see that in our roadmap is because we're really understanding deep intelligence of a renter. Our hypothesis and our data scientists have discovered that the traditional FICO mechanisms for underwriting and evaluating one's ability to carry debt, just so FICO is built for ownership, right? It's built to understand your ability to carry a burden of credit that then you can potentially pay off. And what we've gathered is, renters have this same credit worthiness, but it hasn't been analyzed and it hasn't been reported on. And so our aspiration will be to create novel ways to evaluate renters based upon behavior, reputation, etc., and then provide opportunities like equity, like lease to own, or even inroads to mortgage opportunities. So instead of paying a much higher inflated interest rate because you're a risk subprime, you actually have a rent history that proves that your ability to maintain on-time payments that then can reduce the risk and reduce the interest rate. Yeah.
I'm still a little unclear on how the user uses the platform. Is it the person paying rent? Do they log in someplace and say, I paid the rent, and then the landlord kind of gives them approval? Is it the landlord that goes, I got this paid X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
Who's actually using the platform
Yeah.
specifically, and does it tie into, say, like other platforms, right? So like a lot of landlords have an automatic system that you can go in, log in, pay your rent. Like, does this tie in with their APIs? Like, how's the functionality of the platform itself?
Yeah, great question. And that's really where that's where I spend a lot of my money, actually, is through our technology architecture to ensure that we can integrate with those platforms. And the answer is both. So or all three. So yes, we will integrate with the Buildiums, the Appfolios, and eventually the Yardies of the world. These are the big landlord management systems. They're like the Salesforce for landlords. The beautiful thing is because we capture payments, we have a check writing service. We integrate with a third party that we don't require the landlord to be on our platform to be able to process payments. So the renter, even if the landlord isn't on our platform, can pay the way that they want to pay and be rewarded for paying rent on time. But ultimately, our goal is to be the advocate or intermediary between the property manager and the tenant to provide underpin other elements of service like security deposit underwriting or rent guarantees and things like that. So we'll work with the landlord as well.
So when you do your marketing, is it face-to-face, is it digital? Because what you're describing, I think, for me, I think it's wonderful, but you're doing a lot to a lot of different people. And for me, when it comes to marketing, the best way to do it is simplify. So when you have a ton of different buyer personas, so to speak, which is kind of what I think you're gonna have when you're talking about a renter and a landlord, those are super different demographics. How are you planning to market them? Is it all face-to-face, all relationships?
So our go-to-market strategy begins with relationships with asset managers and property managers and real estate investment trusts. So our executive team and our advisors have access to portfolios of properties, 100 or 200 or 300,000 units that look like maybe 1 million different renters. So that will be our go-to-market strategy. We'll be leveraging existing relationships. And as we grab traction and scale, we can really build out those personas in depth that will then allow us to the B2C market. Because as we scale, that's where a significant amount of our burn rate goes, is to customer acquisition. And so we have to home in on those customer personas first.
So then say you have a relationship with a property manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing this on the back end. Does that mean that a potential renter might have their credit impacted without even knowing it if it's all being done from a property manager?
Yeah, and it can be done already. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So the way I saw it, and I'm in Tim, please, I'm sorry. The way I saw it when I first heard your pitch was, and I could be wrong, but in my mind it was okay, it's a portal.
Yeah.
Right, it's a portal that has a dashboard, and I'm not saying this is what it looks like, but this is what my mind conjured up, right? And my mind is busy now. So it conjured up, and so I have my rent to pay, I have my utilities, and then and then I have my ongoing score, right? Or and how that, and or perhaps messages, right? But that's what came to mind. Is that a fair? I mean, just the portal idea without my description. Is that a fair way to describe?
Yeah, that's great. And some of the I think I actually reduced the in the website. We actually there is a portal. There's also the initial elements of gamification. So how do you increase your credit score and your access to perks and rewards?
Okay. Sorry, Tim.
Oh, so Tim, and then you guys.
So I have 2 parts. One, the literacy. My daughter, she's just turned 18, she graduated, she's coming back from vacation and she's moving into her first apartment. But that whole process getting into the apartment was just horrific.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to say, hey, join this platform, sign up, start establishing your credit now. If you do find a place, these are the landlords that are already in this process.
Yeah.
And they're one application where you don't have to keep putting in applications. And I don't get dinged as a co-signer from every place that keeps looking at my credit.
Yeah.
So I just got dinged on my personal credit because she's early and she's new to, she has no credit at all. So now I'm getting dinged because of her. So this is
I'm
really
telling you, because I talk with lots of tenants and this is a pain point.
So it was just, she had to keep going one after the other, and just the runaround from each different property manager, they were just blowing smoke over Yahoo. And it was just what the hell's going on? I had to call and bitch a few people out, which I was so upset. I don't really know.
Tell me who those folks are and I'll call them.
One way to possibly solve the gamification point side of it for the literacy, because Pocket Points, it's all through the high school. So if you could put like a credit game, like oh, you're graduating, you're turning 18, sign up for this, and have just a competition between groups of kids because they're the ones who are gonna make each other like, oh, I got 700, I got 800, oh, I'm up to 850.
Yeah.
So she has
Credit competition.
credit competition. And now the other side of it was the landlords. Can they start cherry picking and you have to charge them, find the right tenants for them? It's like, oh, this person's been with us for 2 years, their lease is almost up. These are potential people in your area that you could build your house with.
I think the opportunities, once we're in market, we architected our infrastructure in such a way that we're object service and microservice architecture. And so what that means is we're very, very flexible and agile to pivot or to change focus as we're getting to market. And so those are absolutely elements that we've kind of scoped out within our product roadmap, and we just have to determine where they fit in. Is this 2 years down the road? Is this 5 years, etc. So I love it.
So besides just paying rent on time, what's the other metrics you're engaging to build your sort of tenant profile?
Yeah.
Basically, because right now you do your background checks, you do the credit reports. But then I'm also calling, past
References.
landlords, and I'm trying to, figure out, are they good tenants or not? Sometimes you have landlords that are just like, nah, or it's just giving you no information whatsoever, or just kind of giving you too much information. So to the point where the tenant has no chance at that point. And so what are the other metrics you're using to kind of build this profile? And then would that be part of, like, say, with building, could that be another report provided to the landlord, to you, whether or not the tenant's going to be credible?
Yeah, potentially. So this is something this is one of the reasons that we're raising funding is we have some incredible data scientists that are in the process of tackling some of these models to uncover the data points that could really inform this type of thing. But what we've looked at so far is transaction history, so not just your paying rent on time or early, but also paying utilities, etc. Another one is behavior, like how many maintenance calls, what was complaint resolution like? Did you get your security deposit back? Another one is reputation, almost like an Airbnb or eBay review loop. So it's a mutual feedback loop for the tenants, but also for the neighbors. Also social good, like is there a net promoter score increasing? Are you adding value to the community? Are you rounding up for charitable initiatives? And then combining that with some intelligence around psychographic. Because we're doing rewards, we actually really have a deeper understanding of who that person is, what motivates them, and then as they're gathering their credit profile, we also have seen other indicators. So I think that will give us a very clear, comprehensive understanding of the renter.
Would the landlord then be able to kind of see the rewards the tenant was able to achieve?
This is something that we're in the process of discussing, because ultimately what we envision is a profile that the renter gets benefit for informing. Mm-hmm. So by entering additional information in, you actually get benefit. And then by making that available, this increases your chances of renting. And where we see it is that can be a requirement. It could be a requirement for landlords. And as we think about like a BDB for landlords, like this would be a mutual feedback loop and accountability loop for that property manager as well. And I've, in those conversations and in the research, you'd be surprised how many property managers will give a good review to a bad tenant to get that tenant out of there.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly my point. And now you're stuck with them.
Yeah. And now you're stuck with them, but now we have maybe something that could be immutable or,
So will a tenant and the property manager be able to have access to the same data? Or is there, say, additional data that would give advantage to, say, a property manager or a landlord to sign up with you guys?
So right now, our data lake, the way that we've architected it is to not be in the Yelp scenario.
Right.
And if you guys have heard, about the issues with Yelp, and now they just had an integration with Grubhub, so they're cutting the restaurant out of there 15%.
Right.
And the whole thing is Yelp has hidden, maybe not hidden reviews for positive reviews because people haven't bought their Yelp marketing.
Right.
And so that's the place that we do not want to be. We want to be the advocate and the intermediary providing value for that ecosystem and ensuring that the renter, for the data that they're creating, there's a value opportunity for them. So that is something that we're in the process of figuring out what that looks like. But that portfolio would be the data portfolio could be incredibly valuable for decision making for the landlords or the REITs.
Well, even for a tenant, I mean, if they could see why they're maybe getting dinged, right? Like, it's really easy to forget that you paid rent late 6 months ago. Like, you have life gets busy, you forget. So having the information to go, oh, this is why this is low and this is why it's not, would be, as a tenant, would be important to me, I would think.
Yeah, and even as a landlord, like, is there, were you, I would, from my perspective, if someone was late 2 months, but they talked about it, communicated, set up a plan, I would have much more confidence with them than someone that I don't have any visibility into. So that's kind of the goal.
That's awesome.
I would like to know, how are you going to take into account legalese? So renters' rights, what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable from the landlord or a property manager? Because I've heard some stories about property managers really overstepping their boundaries, about asking for personal records, what's going on, and just showing up at their houses. And then on the other side, you had mentioned about, how many service calls do you have, if there's more social on the renter.
Yeah.
How do you vet the property owners that they're not just slumlords, but they're using yours, and this person just keeps calling in because the house is, a wreck. Just didn't want to see them.
Or someone who's not paying rent because, say, like, they have had water damage in their house for 2 months that hasn't gotten fixed. Like, how do you prevent, say, a landlord from doing that? Because legally, within the state of California, you're allowed to withhold rent if certain things are not held. Like, how are you holding those things into consideration for both the landlord and the tenant?
And that's really the point, is to demystify this process, create more intelligence, but also mutual accountability. Because the tenant and landlord relationships are often tenuous. Like, most tenants have had a bad experience with the landlord, and now every engagement with a future property manager or landlord, they have that, that's their reference point. And every property manager has had a bad tenant, unless there's some strange edge case. And so that's often the lens you review that relationship. So our goal is to demystify that, create mutual accountability and feedback, to hopefully elevate that economy. Yeah.
How's your company set up? And also, what funding? How are you doing with funding?
Yeah, so we're a California company, but we're a Delaware C Corp, and we're raising traditional angel rounds now. So my background is in raising cash for companies. So I'm working with some family offices, local VCs, local angel groups, and just on that roadshow, talking with everyone and securing commitments.
I want to ask you about the costs, let's say per $1,000, and the fees, especially transaction fees that you have to pay as a company, and who pays that? Is it the tenant or the landlord? And then once you move past a freemium model, you have your percentage too. So let's say $1,000 is the rent. What would be the cost, and who would pay that?
Yeah, so right now we have an ACH. So ACH is pennies. And our hypothesis is, as we scale and as we're driving tangible value for the renter, why pay $1 to mail a check when you can pay 50 cents or 99 cents to process a transaction? So that would be one. Another one is, right now you can pay with a credit card, but you have to pay an additional 2.5%.
Yeah,
so as we gather data, as we gather scale, we can reduce that rate and then make the margin. And then finally, and so some of this stuff is, I just have to be transparent, some of this stuff is at scale. But at scale, there's $600 billion spent annually on rent. 80% is still using paper. So if you can, when we capture some of that volume, we'll have a float. We'll have, a 2 or 3 or 4 day arbitrage, depending on the relationship with the property manager, that we can, capitalize on that cash. So that's kind of the long tail approach.
How would you do the cash? Would you have like retail outlets where you can then go to pay the cash?
Yeah, or integrate with a Forte
Okay.
or another payment solution. So that's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to buy right now and then determine what is most valuable for us to build.
We've got a few more minutes, so a couple more questions.
I have to say, I love the gamification part of it. I think it creates a real incentive for tenants. But I also think you can kind of squeeze in education within that gamification part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the real kind of genius behind this. Also, as a landlord, for me, the real value is a tenant profile. Again, I get very little from the background checks that I currently do now, and really rely on those referrals and preferences, and get very little from that sometimes. So I really do see a value in that tenant profile to be delivered along. I would love to see them building MS 1 to 3, reports to kind of download.
Yeah, that's where our hope is too.
Yeah.
I think this is amazing. As someone who constantly makes the mistake of renting to friends, it's very nice to have a potential of dinging people, say that are 3-4 months late on rent. I think that is just one of many perks of this. I mean, not me, but it's nice to have people have to be held accountable to something.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I have long thought that paying rent should be considered something people get credit for people who are young, people who maybe come from a different socioeconomic background. I feel like I was really lucky. When I turned 18, my parents put me on a credit card and they helped me and they helped do all of these things. But I also know that I come from a life of privilege and a lot of people do not have that. And this is such a great tool to help people build a socioeconomic, helping bring their status up and give them the opportunity. So I really commend you on the things that you do, and I really recommend in your marketing efforts highlighting those aspects. I think that the personal touch and the opportunity to help change someone's life, I think that is going to be a solid win for you.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe you said this, but will you guys be pushing through like notifications for them, like as far as like reminders? Like your rent is due in 12 days, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, they
initially-
opt in or opt out on that, but.
Initially, that will be push notification within phase 2. I think within our second release, we'll also have text notification, like text to pay. So like, if you click this link, oh, you forgot about your rent, text to pay now.
Right.
It's due in 2 days. And then mutual messaging and potentially complaint resolution through bots. So, yeah.
I don't know, can you tell me how do most landlords or property management companies collect their rent? Do they have a primary system that they use?
So there's two modes to rent collecting. There's like the reporting of rent, and then there's actually the depositing of rent. And so most organizations use a landlord management system. There's several big ones out there: Entrada, Appfolio, Buildium, Yardi, you name it. So these systems often have gateways to or portals to let tenants pay. However, they're not adopted. 80% of the U.S. still pays rent in paper, statistically. So that means 80 million people use check or cash to pay their rent. Which our hypothesis is, yes, we'll integrate with those existing channels, but incentivize the behaviors that are removing the friction from the process. Incentivizing ACH payments or other types of payments. And so how landlords accept cash of money today is most of them have a Dropbox or mailing address, and the guy still has to run to the bank, reconcile the ledger, make sure that the check matches a person, and then enter that into their landlord management software and so on. So it's still kind of a painful process.
Seems to me that's the key gateway for you, is that point, how they pay online, get them to pay online.
Yeah.
And what system, and you don't offer that, right? Is that you don't?
No, we offer
You do
yeah,
offer a transaction platform?
payment online. So ACH, credit card, and
Or from their bank account?
PayPal. Yeah.
Then that connects
So
to
sorry,
credit.
ACH is directly to their bank account. It's automated clearinghouse. So
Okay.
It's like a direct deposit.
yeah.
So I would think the landlord should drive this thing, or they're the ones who, you're their best friend, because if they can convert some of those cash payers into online payers,
Yeah.
it's gonna make their life easier. I mean, I'm a small fry, but I give my tenants a little bonus if they pay online. You know, it's cheaper for them. So I don't, it's not, I don't want them to
Makes
come to my
total
office.
sense.
I don't want to have to put a PO box.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
It's a lot
right.
easier.
They'll have to wonder if a check's gonna bounce.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would think if you scale that up by property management companies, they're gonna.
Be all over that like.
too.
And that's our go-to-market strategy, is leveraging relationships with property managers. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And
Nice to see
That was awesome.
you. Yeah.
I very much appreciate the time coming down.
oh, it's great.
Got me thinking about a whole lot of things. So,
And you have a direct number, so when your daughter gets, no.
Yeah, there it is.
and the full premium is in September. I want her to sign up. Like, tell her friends and
That's right.
She's an influencer. Right?
Is she here in Chico?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got her just to see what it's like doing it, see what the effects are, and just showing her some of the, like you're saying, literacy, right? How it'll affect her in the long run. Because now she's applying for credit cards and like, hey, just wait on that.
It's not
You
big
get
money.
enough money to pay your stuff and save. So thank you very much. And thank you everybody for showing up this week. I appreciate your time and getting out here and spending a little time to help others create their empires and follow their dreams. I want to say thank you to all our organizers, our volunteers, our sponsors, and especially Garden Villa Café for the awesome facility. And next week, we will be having Matt York, a local entrepreneur, and he is going to be talking about, I have to take a picture of it, social entrepreneurship and venture philanthropy, study of social enterprise. So, come next week and listen to Matt talk about what his passion is.
It will be an experienced business presentation first.
Yes.
Yes. Experience business presentation. I gotta do that next. So thank you, everybody. Go out and be awesome today and share the enthusiasm that you gained here today. So thank you. Let's do this.
Thanks so much. Good job, Nick.
When you think about it, you feel these